Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call hello, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakokwadash. Double honors, of course, go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who deserve double honors. Again, salutations go out to the fellow Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth, all in sincerity, trying to wake up the remaining hopeful elect. This is Naaman with the DC camp. All right. Look what we have here, the blackout of racism in white America. You know, because we say it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Whatever. You're not going to be absolved for your crimes. All right. Even though we are aware of certain jakes, particularly in Christianity, that would be willing to do so. But that's not what the Most High says. That's not what the scriptures say. All right, so those jakes that are apologists for you, it doesn't matter. Your fate is sealed, as it were. All right. Anyway, here we go. It says, The Blackout of Racism in White America by Dr. Olu. Okay. I'm not going to even try with the first name there. Let's see what this says. I'm going to try to see if I can. Come on here. I don't want that. I want this. Let's see if I can. Oh. Anyway, you see the Klansman there with the Jake hanging up. And he says, just because you experienced slavery, Jim Crow, lynching, discrimination, etc., doesn't mean that racism exists. Stop whining and get over it. Isn't that what they always say? And if they don't say it, this is what their actions suggest. And yet we got to hear this bullshit of a hollow hoax. And we know it's bullshit. I dare say the majority of the world knows it's bullshit. But they try to make you express sympathy for these rats. All right, they even give them money for a lie. Let's continue on. It says, there is a growing but invisible problem in America. Essentially, a lot of white people are unaware of the race problem, or so they say. Black people, on the other hand, are all too familiar with race issues. The denial among many whites to acknowledge racial tension is probably partially due to a certain amount of latent guilt. As we observe the move to ban books that highlight the race problems in America, I just did a video yesterday about one of the least known of the founding fathers, Noah Webster, and how he was a critical race, not theorist, but realist. All right. He wrote about how fucked up things were in his day. And no one, typical. But he was also against the Jesuits. And before he was bought out by the Catholic Church, he had some pretty damning things to say about it, because he knew it was bullshit. He understood many languages, and he understood the con game that the Catholic Church was playing. You're hard pressed to find that now. I've downloaded it. It's in my collection somewhere. I have to find it. Anyway, it goes on to say here, as we observe the move to ban books that highlight the race problems in America, it is clear that this strategy might lend itself to the creation of a cloak of invisibility around the maltreatment of black American in America, of black people in America. And let's be clear, there's no one that is black in this world. It's just different shades of brown, from really light to really dark, but brown nonetheless. Like, it's no one that is white either. These are the red people, the nation of Edom, descendants of Jacob's brother Esau in the Bible. That's why they will try to name themselves or associate themselves with every other people on the globe except for who they really are. Because once you find out who they really are, now, that's why we carry a sign out, all right, on the line that gives you the 18 nations, including Israel, all right. And we tell you who Edom is. It is a so-called white man. But see, he told you that Gad, the so-called Native Americans, were the red people. No, he is. Gad, for the most part, are what you call ruddy, all right, which does not include Esau. You'll see him put himself like the ruddy or rosy cheeks. No, that's leprosy. That's a form of leprosy. All right, his pigment, that's a curse. All right, you can associate that with Numbers 12th chapter. All right, it goes in where Moses and Aaron and Miriam, and what the Most High did to Miriam, stripped her of all her pigment. She had to separate herself for 7 days from the rest of Israel. All right, and as Aaron said, let not this curse, as is one that is dead. He almost had a heart attack. But that, that's not natural to look at that. That's laid out this sin, as Aaron said. So it is a sin to look like that. It says one of the avenues for the relation of this problem is the unfortunate incarceration in Russia of the WNBA star Brittany Griner. She has been convicted to serve 9 years in what is basically a Russian labor camp for having a small amount of marijuana in her luggage when she arrived in Russia. From most accounts, these camps are horrible and consign people to intense labor. The hatred and vitriol that has come from white observers about her sentencing is astounding. Most of the antagonists are convinced that she is anti-American. Why? Because she, like Colin Kaepernick, and let's be upfront, I do not agree with her lifestyle and all that. And something told me when all this got started, we're talking about February of this year. We're at the end of this year, all right? Almost a year that she's been there. And a lot of us knew how it was going to play out, all right? And it's going to be the Skittles Nation, the so-called LGBTQ. And they're going to expose this for all it's worth. And who's a big pusher of that? This current administration, all right? So the Russians were smart to exploit that. I have no problem with that, all right? But it's causing more hatred, all right? Because what? They left the American hero there, all right? And a lot of people are not, as of yet, aware that they were trying to get them both, talking about Whelan and Griner, released together. But the Russians said, no, you're just going to get one. All right, anyway, it says, for most accounts, these camps are horrible and consign people to intense labor. The hatred and vitriol that has come from white observers about her sentencing is astounding. Most of the antagonists are convinced that she is anti-American. Like I said, why? Because she refused to stand for the national anthem and all that bullshit, all right? Because people are tired of you get stopped by the police, you don't know if it's your last day, all because anything that you do can be misconstrued, all right, as an act of violence or a threat towards the police. All right. And how many times has that been caught on camera? Think about the days before we had cell phone cameras. All right, it's a lot of blood in this land. All right. Going to Numbers 35 and 33. And as a result, it can only be solved one way. It says they accuse her of a lack of patriotism. And of all the people that have been in this country, you're going to see, this is where we have to say, fuck this place. Because they keep playing this mind game with our people. You keep getting kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked. And when you complain, oh, you're unpatriotic. You ungrateful. No, fuck you. All right? And they know if they were in the same position, but what they call them, freedom fighters, when it's them. It says, and think that she got what she deserved because, she was accused of being unpatriotic. Many of the commenters have expressed a type of glee that she will be locked up for a long time. And I personally saw some comments to that effect. In contrast, a white woman, so-called, Audrey Lorber, was caught not too long ago with a much larger amount of marijuana than Brittany had, but only served 3 months in a Russian jail and was then released. When this was pointed out to those who said that Brittany got what she deserved, there was a deafening silence. They didn't have shit to say because they were exposed for their hypocrisy. How about that? Another situation that brought out the raging ignorance of many so-called white people is connected with Elon Musk's activities regarding his acquisition of Twitter. Most people by now know that Musk is in the process of making far-reaching changes, especially those relating to personnel. Someone on Facebook posted a picture of Twitter employees in a certain department before layoffs. That photo had one visibly black person in it, a woman. The photo that showed the personnel in that department after layoffs was very revealing. The crowd was much smaller and there was not a single black face in the group. It has been said that Musk's motivation for acquiring Twitter was to ensure free speech and to guarantee inclusion. When someone said that the absence of blacks in the department challenged the notion of inclusion, a firestorm of white rage resulted. They go that white rage, that indignation, that Edomite indignation. One of the things that some so-called white people always say when issues of race are raised by black people is that they are tired of hearing it. Well, I'm even more tired of living it, you piece of shit. They insist that slavery is over and say that black people are whiners and need to get over it. Next time you hear someone complain of the Holocaust, why don't you say that? Why don't we all just say that? Quit whining. They say that they didn't own slaves and that there are no black people alive today who experienced slavery. They are also puzzled as to why some blacks are not super enthusiastic American patriots. I just did a video 2 or 3 months back that told the story of a gentleman here locally in the DC area that died. He was 90 years old. His father was a slave, you piece of shit. How about that? No, I didn't stutter. I didn't say his grandfather or great-grandfather. I said his father. Essentially, many white people really do not believe that there is a race problem in America. It is invisible to them, even though the George Floyd situation was an example for all to see. They are convinced that the only reason the Black Lives Matter movement exists is to ensure that a small group of black people funded by a white supporter, I'm glad they know that, are able to fleece people. The inference is that the group exists to address a fictitious problem. Fictitious problem. Psalms 73. The heading here is, "The Most High is my strength and portion forever." This is verse 4, "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm." 5, "They," talking about Edomites, so-called white people, "are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have all the possessions they could ever want, let alone need. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt. They are the wicked, and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Let's go into that. Is that not what they're saying? There's no racism here. These blacks, they're always complaining. They're whining. They made a mention of fleecing. Well, that part is true. You have a billionaire, multi-billionaire by the name of George Soros, who funds this shit. A so-called Jewish lady, right as all this uproar was kicking off, she made a point that she traced the money and found out that it was all going to the Democratic Party. Now, we all know that BLM is a smokescreen for the LGBTQ, whatever else. And we know that Soros set up these, initially it was 4 homosexuals, with one being male. But as it stood for the last several years, it's been 3 lesbians. One got caught purchasing a bunch of real estate not too long ago, and I hear she's no longer a part of it. I don't know, really don't give a shit. But they got exposed with what part of their charter stated, and that was their goal was to get rid of the quote-unquote nuclear family, which, of course, the man being the head, the patriarch, and that's what they wanted to do away with, with the patriarchy. And guess who that affects the most? There you go. So these people are working against, you got to understand, these Skittles people and of the so-called black community, they are not of the so-called black community because they are some fucked up people. And as such, they seek to punish the, like I said, they won't do away to patriarchy, the norm. All right, that's what they are about. And I have a video, I didn't set it up, to where this lesbian, like I say, they're somehow angry. I'm talking about the quote unquote black queer, that they're not respected in their community. It's because you are fucked up. That's why. All right. So she's like, well, when we're around so-called white queers, we don't get the respect because they're condescending toward us. And I'm like, I started laughing. You know, like I said, I recorded it. And it's like, see, even in wickedness, you got to understand, this is Edomite / white, so-called white supremacy. All right, here you are, wicked, like them, thinking you're on the same level because you're both rejects. All right, but no, they still look down on you, you stupid fucks. Anyway, back to this. It says the prosperous wicked, which these Edomites are. You look at the, I believe it's still 10-to-1 as far as on average, as far as the wealth disparity. The prosperous wicked are insolently proud. Let's see what Psalms 5:5 says. It said, the foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. Okay. It says they die as well as live, free from perplexities. All you have to do is go to, and I will do that once I get through with this Job 21st chapter. It's down here. Pride adorns them, and violence is their clothing. Indeed, they are inflated with unexpected success. Verse 8, it says they are corrupt, or literally they deride, they speak maliciously and arrogantly, and invade even heaven with blasphemy. That's Revelation 13:6. And cover earth with slanders. Let's go to Job 21, like I said. Verse 7, wherefore do the wicked live, become old, yea, or mighty in power? Their seed is established in their sight with them, and their offspring before their eyes. Their houses are safe from fear. You go into these neighborhoods, they don't even want you. Some guy did, what's this, last month? Or was it the month before? All he was doing was just walking. You know, when he had to go to the nice part of town, and police officer pulled past him, gave him that look, went up past him, and turned around and parked as if to say, yeah, nigger, you just fuck up. He said he got the message. So you got to understand, the police department, even to this day, one of the big things that they were enforcing was segregation. See, they can walk up and all down your neighborhood all they want. You know, a lot of our people are so fucked up in the head, they don't even think twice about it. They'll come after me for walking in what I'm thinking I'm safe, you know. But little white man, walk on past. Oh, excuse me, sir. The curses. Thine eye shall be evil towards thy brother. You got Deuteronomy 28, 54, 56, you know. Their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of the Most High upon them, because we're under the curses. We're being corrected. All right. Their bull gendereth and faileth not. Their cow calveth and casteth not her calf. They send forth their little ones like a flock, and their children dance. They take the timbrel and harp and rejoice at the sound of the organ. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore they say unto the Most High, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. And they don't. Wisdom of Solomon, 2nd chapter, goes into that. All right. So let's go back to the article. This is who you're dealing with. That's why James 2:13 tells you that there's no mercy for these motherfuckers, because they showed no mercy. Hebrews 12 chapter verses 16 and 17, there's no chance of repentance for these devils. None, even though so they sought, when it talks about Edom, all right, when it talks about Esau, how he sought, yep, it's over. All right, you were created to be the wicked. That's what you are. Anyway, continuing on, it says, interestingly, when the idea of race issues is raised, many white observers never talk about Jim Crow. They say, slavery's over with, but they don't tell you, they don't want to address what happened after that. Or the fact that there are corporations today that played a huge role in the slave trade. And when it is pointed out that blacks have been discriminated against when it comes to employment, the not so subtle response is that they must not be qualified or that they are lazy. They harbor the belief that black people are inferior and that anyone who attains employment is only there because of affirmative action. In conclusion, the movement among a certain group of right-wing whites to ban the teaching of race matters is creating a blackout of a white racial problem. They are trying to render the race problem invisible, which is seemingly very effective among a population that is already dumbed down. And so far, it appears to be working. Notice I said it appears to be working, because they would like to sweep all this stuff back off the rug, but you've been exposed. See, the internet, Psalms 19th chapter, and Romans 10 verse 18, that internet, everything's going on out. It wasn't used as you thought it would be. You know, it's like the Most High's playing chess while you played checkers. See, this is under his control. Edom. All right. Black people should resist this trend by keeping the issue of white oppression visible and reject the notion that the act of advocacy for equity is whining. You're just whining. I made a joke about, whenever you see an Edomite in trouble, quit whining. I mean, you're asking me for help, but because of affirmative action, or at least that's what you say. I mean, I may not be qualified to help. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that. I mean, don't take that to heart. All right. Anyway, so once again, this has been the blackout of racism in white America. They are trying so hard to. Now you're coming up with all. Oh, I just thought about this. All these efforts to. They just appointed some. Uh, appears to be a Judite to a position at some prestigious college. I think it was it Harvard or Yale? I think it was Yale. For the first time in over like however many centuries, whatever. Anyway, something to that effect. Uh, all these, the first this, you're tired of hearing about that shit, you know. And now here in the district, I think they just got over. They had a conference here. We had all these leaders from 47 so-called African nations that were here. They had a lot of streets blocked off downtown. Uh, you know, talking about they apologized for slavery and all this shit. Whatever. I don't know what they're. Of course, I do know. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. They're after some more resources. They're trying to get ahead of China because a lot of those nations, they said, fuck the U.S. China's our best friend or Russia's our best friend. And here they come with, well, we're sorry for slavery. Well, what about the people that are over here? What are you doing? They're talking about giving Californians, and I think New York is, talking about the same thing about reparations. Where does it start? Where does it end? Because Tucker Carlson had a good point in his rant on the news channel, Fox News, the other day. Who are you going to give this money to? When you track their ancestry, he made a good point. He said some people that are so-called white, their ancestors go, and we've been telling you so-called, all you black-only Israelites, this is the way it works. All right? And we're not necessarily talking about the $5 Indian thing, again. No, this is just simple biology, simple genetics. Who's who? How do you... Yeah, you've got this DNA bullshit, and we know who controls that. This is why we emphasize not pressing for reparations on this side. We want biblical reparations. We want Revelation 13, verse 9 and 10. All right? That's what we want. Because here on this side, this devil still controls all this shit. They're going to have it some way where they still prosper from this. Trust me. All right? Hey, so with that, once again, the title of this has been The Blackout of Racism in White America. This devil, his reign is coming to an end. And this great reset, you're seeing the beginnings of a lot of people spazzing out, or beginning to spaz out. All right? It's going to be very interesting, the last, all that executive order 14067 that was signed back in March by Biden about the digital currency. They're starting to experiment with, you're going to start to see, let me rephrase that, less and less physical cash and coin being exchanged. All right. So just a heads up in case you didn't know. So with that, hey, I hope whoever views this has been edified. That's what we aim to do here at Great Millstone, and filter everything through the scriptures. All right, because time is short, as we say, and as a lot of you are beginning to see now. This is the time to stay prayed up. All right, especially with the brotherhood here, because these spirits are out here. All right. Hey, so with that, shalom.